studio with me today, I have the most lovely Emily Leedom. Emily, welcome.
It's a joy to be back with you, my friend.
I know,
It's been a couple months.
It's been since the beginning of the year. I think I went back and looked, and we were just chatting a little bit before the show, and I was like, gosh, you haven't been here for a while. It's so good to have you in the studio again.
Somebody has to rein us in, though, sometimes, Renee. I feel like we have a little too much fun.
I know.
So we'll see if we can get through.
We can. All right, so Emily is the executive director of the Lord's Center, and she is also a member of the Bishop's leadership team, along with myself, and we have been working really hard on all things set ablaze to make sure things go well in the diocese as we make these big changes and shifts. And, of course, because of what you do, one of your expertises is change.
Expertise is a very strong word, Renee.
Okay,
I don't know if I'm an expert at navigating
more
change.
Expertise than the rest of us.
But I do love talking about it, and I love watching people,
Yes.
and we accompany people. You know, at the Lord's Center, so much of what we do is accompany people through various changes in life, big, small, everywhere in between, traumatic, beautiful, you know, all of that. So I have a first-hand seat in watching change in other people and in my own life. You know, I'm kind of a student of it in my own life. So.
Yeah. So we wanted to talk about this because of all the changes coming in the diocese. So, so Emily, can you start by telling us, how do people feel about change in general?
There's such a spectrum, you know, of how people experience change. I actually really kind of like change. In fact, like if things are not changing much in my life, I can start to get a little bit restless. Like, okay, what's kind of the next new thing? You know, like I'm a bit of an originator, if you will, of change. I like to change. My husband always jokes with me that like all of the big major decisions in our life would have never happened if Emily hadn't gotten the ball rolling. Because I'm kind of a natural person that for the most part enjoys you know, positive change.
I feel like there's always some things in your life that you're like, I'm not so sure I want to change that.
Yes. But we all really have preferences. You know, I think some social psychologists have really kind of nailed this, in that you have change originators. They're like the Bishop de Groods of the world. You know, Bishop is so good at this, where he just sees potential. He sees incredible things that could happen, and he gets the ball rolling on them. There's other people who are really open to change, but they also want to know the why. So they're a little bit more kind of pragmatists, if you will, about it. Like, I'll get on board, but kind of help me why. Like, there's good things about how we're doing it now. Chris Bergwald, you know, I know he's been a guest on Catholic Views. I think he's kind of this way. Like, he totally will get on board, but he likes to know the why and the understanding, and can see the beauty of the way it's being done now and the potential of how it could be done.
I'm a bit like that too. I would say I think I have a touch of originator in me, because I come up with ideas, but in my own head I have to answer that why first before I start putting something in motion. So, and then there's what we would maybe call conservers. And these are all neutral, by the way. Like, these aren't good or bad. They're just kind of our natural preferences. Conservers are people that really value the way that institutions are set up, and they don't love to rock the boat too much. They're big fans of slow change over an extended period of time, where maybe like your originators are kind of like, let's move quickly and let's start now. Your conservers are, let's conserve what we have for the sake of stability over long amounts of time, and slowly kind of roll those things out. So, you know, I think sometimes we say like, oh, people hate change. Yeah, maybe some do, some changes potentially. It's more that I think we're a little uncomfortable with what we don't know or what we don't understand. And that can make us a little uneasy about change. But I think a lot of times for people, you know, if they're going to make a change in their own life, if they're going to move houses, they're going to go back to school, or they're going to have a baby or whatever, like you can point to a myriad of different examples in your own life. A lot of times those changes are exciting. I think where it gets more difficult for people is when we start talking about changes in institutions. And changes that they didn't initiate. That are happening to them rather than they're initiating.
Because we don't quite know how that's going to affect us. We also really value the things that we are a part of. You know, I really value my parish. I really value my Catholic school that we send our children to. I really value
oh gosh, what's another good example? Like my favorite store, the
Yeah.
way that it's
Yeah.
set up. So when it starts to change, we worry that it's no longer going to be the same that we affiliate with. You know, if there's a major change to my church, it's like, oh, but is it still going to be that same church that I'm so proud
We like
to
the familiar.
attend? Yeah, we like the familiar, and it's what we know, and
Yeah.
we're really, you know, we're a part of that institution because we value it, because we want to be connected to it.
Yeah.
And when it starts to change, we get nervous that is it going to be the same institution or the same business or the
Right.
same organization that I know and love.
Yeah. Do you know if there's is there typically a higher percentage of conservers over the others?
I've wondered
It seems
that.
like it, but I don't know.
I don't know either. I've wondered that. You know, I bet you could. I'll do some research instead,
Yeah.
because I have a feeling it's somehow connected to, like, you could tie it back to even some of the Myers-Briggs personality types or some
sure.
of those types
Yeah.
of things. Like,
Yeah.
I think certain personality types are more oriented toward being an originator or being a conserver. And I bet if I looked at the percentages of those and, like,
It probably
you know,
would.
did the deductions, I bet we could kind of get a good sense
Yeah,
for
I
it.
bet
Because,
so.
yeah, it's really interesting. And I think if we all look at, like, even just you and I
Yeah.
are maybe different. Like, you said you're more of a pragmatist. Like,
Yep.
you're on board, but you
Yep.
kind of want to know the why and that kind of thing. Like,
Yeah.
even in my circles, I can totally find different of my friends, my family members that would fall into these different preferences and
Right.
how they deal with change. And again, they're all neutral.
Yeah.
They're all good.
Yeah. And I know that you
so-
and I are different personality types.
Yeah.
So that would make sense.
Yeah.
Could make sense as
Yes.
to why those things
Yeah.
are different too.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Okay. So when people are faced with change, what happens to them?
That's such a good question. So, yeah, we've been talking a lot kind of in this Set Ablaze process, and we've been talking with priests about change and parish staff about change and the laity, and it's inevitable, right? Change is inevitable.
Whether it's set ablaze.
Whether
or
it's
not,
set ablaze or not, yeah, just in your life.
Yeah.
It is absolutely inevitable. We are all going to experience change that's kind of outside of our control. In various ways.
Yep.
And we have a choice in how we respond to that. So, again, these are kind of, I'm really stealing this from a lot of social psychologists and leadership development work that people have done. But there's kind of 3 ways that we can respond to change. One is to say, okay, this change is happening, regardless of whether or not I like it. How can I capitalize on this change to really get the best outcome and to kind of ride, in Bishop DeGroote's words, how can I ride the wave
Right.
of grace here and really capitalize on the changes? So that would be, a first option, a navigator. Let's
Right.
call them a navigator.
Okay.
How can I navigate change well? Again, this is outside of my control, but okay, it's happening. I can either, complain about it or whatever, or I can say, what can I do to help?
Right.
How can I really support this to ensure that the best possible outcome is achieved? So we can be a navigator. And I think that's the goal.
Yes.
I wrote an article in the Bishop's Bulletin about some of this, and we talked about Moses.
Yes. Yes.
Like, he's such
good
an
comparison.
example
Yeah.
of a navigator. Like, if you read Exodus, I mean, it's almost kind of comical what the Lord is asking. It's not funny what the Lord is asking,
Right.
but like the over and over and over again, Moses, do this and go to the elders
And
and
he's
then
like,
lead the people
"Really?"
and then talk to the Pharaoh and
Yeah.
then, create the leaders within the Israelite people. And then I want you to fast for this number of days. And then I want you to grab this bread, but I only want you to eat this bread on this day. And I want you to do this. And then I want you to do this. And then I want you to put that bread back in a different dinner. I mean, it is like, wow, Lord, like, there's a lot. That's a lot, man.
It's a lot.
That's a
That's
lot.
a lot of faith to have
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
that.
And what does Moses do? He does
he,
it.
He did it.
He does it. And he recognizes that it's actually going to be good for the Israelite people, that everything the Lord is asking of him will bring about good for the people. So he's saying, okay, how can I navigate, if you will, these changes? Every day there was a new change, a
Yep.
new law that
Yep.
the Lord was kind of offering to the people. How can I navigate these changes to really help the Israelites
Yep.
come into the promised land?
Yeah.
Beautiful sign of beautiful example of a navigator. Okay, so that's one option in
Okay.
how we can respond.
Okay.
Really good option. I think we all recognize, like, we
Yes.
want to be a navigator,
Yes.
right? Second option, which I think we can fall into all the time, is kind of this survivor mentality where we cross our arms, sit back, and say, like, I'm just going to watch how this goes.
Right.
Right? Like, I'm just going to kind of see how this plays out before I make a judgment or before I really get on board or before I kind of offer my help. You know, like,
Right.
have you ever been, like, working on a group, you know, thing, like a group of friends where you're trying to complete some sort of project, you're redoing your deck or whatever, and there's this, like, moment of conflict, right?
Like,
Yeah. And you kind of go, like, yeah, we're just going to watch how this goes.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not going to say it's not going to work, but I'm not going to be helpful in figuring out a solution. Right?
Right.
Like, this is, we've all been there.
Yeah.
That's kind of the survivor mentality. You know, if we keep on going with that example of Exodus, I think of Aaron. So Aaron was kind of Moses's right-hand man, right? And there's one day where Moses goes up the mountain and all of the people surround Aaron and are saying, you know, hey, would you build us a golden calf? Like, we need, you know, and they're pressing in on him. Come on, we need something to worship. Like, we want something. And so Aaron is like, bah, I don't know. Okay, whatever. Like, we're just going to do it. He was kind of in this survivor mode, right? Like,
He wasn't trusting Moses.
yes.
And he was pressured by the people.
Yes. He
And-
wasn't navigating the change
Right.
that, you know, that the Lord was kind of asking. He really was like, I don't know what to do here, so I'm just going to, like, sit back and kind of plead the fifth. And actually,
Right.
like, Moses comes down and says to Aaron, like, why would you do this? Why would you build this golden calf? And he's like, you know how the people can be. Like, it's not my fault, right? Like, not my gig. Like, I was a survivor in this.
Right, right.
So we can kind of have that response. I think that's a really, really common response, actually. Like, we remove ourselves because we don't want to be on the chopping block.
Yep.
If it doesn't go the right way,
Yep.
we're not offering our helpfulness to the change.
But at the same time, we also don't want to be the cause of its failure.
Yeah.
We don't want to help. We don't want to hurt.
Yes.
So we're just kind of
yeah. So I'm just gonna, like, step out a
Right.
little bit.
Right.
Yep. And I'm gonna watch.
Right.
I'm gonna watch and wait and see how this goes. Which in fact, like, I don't know if that's always a bad thing.
Right.
For the
Sometimes that can be
record.
okay.
Yeah, but I think there's a way of intention with it. You know, there's one survivor, there's kind of a spectrum within this survivor mentality. One is like, yeah, well, we're going to watch and wait and kind of have, like, a hope that it will fail, because wouldn't that feel more, you know, encouraging to
Yes.
me sort of
Yes.
thing?
Like, see,
Or-
I told you I should have waited.
Yeah. Or there's like, I'm going to watch and wait because I just don't understand yet
Yeah.
how I can be helpful. Those are very two different postures
Yes.
kind of within the survivor.
Yeah,
So
for
that's
sure.
that's another way that people respond.
Okay.
The last one, and I think this is also super common, I've been there, done that, continue to do it regularly, is to kind of have this victim sort of mentality, which is in essence like, ugh, this is happening to me again. Why is this happening to me again?
Yep.
Why is my husband doing this to me again? Why are my kids out to get me again? Why is Bishop moving us
Yep.
again? Why is Bishop moving our priest again?
I feel like this can happen a lot in the political realm with the government. You
Yeah,
might say,
very much
why
so.
are they doing this to us again? Why
Yeah.
is this happening? Wow.
Yeah. And it's really an easy temptation, I think, for us to fall into. And you know, a lot of times, this is maybe deeper than what we can go here, but I think a lot of times in this victim mentality, there's usually some sort of wound
Okay.
that's kind of at the heart of why we tend to slide easily into that victim
Yeah.
response.
Yeah.
Maybe it's because we've consistently felt unknown or misunderstood.
Okay.
And so after some patterns of these wounds of feeling misunderstood or unknown, it's really easy for us to just continue to go down that slide into nobody understands me,
Right.
nobody knows me, nobody whatever.
Right.
Sometimes it's a matter of blaming. Maybe
Right.
somebody has experienced being blamed for something, even if it was, you know, their error or their fault, but it was done in such a harsh or uncomfortable or painful way that they never wanted to feel that way again. They never wanted to feel at fault again. So they won't take responsibility
Right.
for errors that
Right.
they make because it's really painful. And when this is a good thing. Like, we have a temptation or a tendency to protect ourselves as human.
Yeah.
That's really good. Like,
Yep.
that's how our race has survived for millions of years.
Yep.
Right? Is
Right.
that we recognize, like, okay, the iron is hot.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a protection of ourselves, but it can be really easy then for us to kind of slide into that victim mentality.
Yeah.
And I always really talk about this with great tenderness because it is so easy for us to slide into,
Yeah.
but it's not where the Lord desires us to live.
No.
And so there's something that actually needs healing in our hearts, and in our,
approach and in our understanding if and when we find ourselves easily sliding into kind of that victim mentality.
Yeah.
Oftentimes you'll kind of notice for a victim maybe the stimulus or the experience is at like a level, maybe it's at like a level 4.
Mm-hmm.
The response is at a level 8.
Oh, okay.
So there's this gap between the bigness of the experience and the bigness of the response in a victim.
Mm-hmm.
And that's often a telltale for me when I'm kind of acting like a victim.
Oh, yeah.
If I can take a step back, I'm like, okay, if I can like remove my emotions from this situation, what the experience that I just had with my husband really was like a level 3.
Right.
Like it wasn't a big deal. But my response was really big.
Right.
What's that about?
Right.
And somewhere in there, between that gap is the wound.
Yeah.
Is what we would say.
Yeah.
So I just always talk about that with great tenderness because I think it is a temptation. You and I have all of us, every one of us listening, I think has kind of fallen into this victim mentality.
Yep. Who are the victims in the Moses piece? I
Yeah.
can't remember. Oh, the Israelites.
It's the Israelite people, right? So like the Israelite people, it's so funny. They go to Moses and Aaron and they say, that we would have died at the hand of Pharaoh in Egypt, where at least we would have been fed.
Right.
Where at least our bellies would have been full. If you just would have let us stay in Egypt, we could have eaten our bread, but instead you had to pull us out here. At least there we were under oppression, but we were fed. Here we're in the desert. We've got nothing. I mean, it's just like, it's so the people grumbled against God and Moses.
Yeah.
That's kind of that victim.
Yeah.
You've done this to us.
Yeah. Okay, so Emily, we're running out of time fast, and this always happens. When
I know we need a part 2.
I know. So, you gave us some example. I don't know if you have any quick examples from real life that's besides Moses, but I also want to talk about 2 other things: the don't forget your why, which you have mentioned to us, and how it's okay to fail, and what do we do when we succeed?
Yeah. So
Like
we talked about
5 minutes.
Oh, we can totally do that. So we talked about being a navigator.
Yeah.
How do you be a navigator?
Yeah.
Well, one of the ways that I think you really navigate change well is to remember why it's happening.
Yes.
And that has to be deeply personal.
Mm-hmm.
Like you have to get to the point of why are we doing this?
Yeah.
I've shared the example before. For me, I had a profound experience standing in front of an image of the Last Judgment 10 years ago. Oh my gosh, 10 years ago, and had this experience of like, I want to be on the clouds pulling people into heaven.
Mm-hmm.
And for example, with Set Ablaze, as I was understanding, okay, why are we doing this? I connected that moment where I felt like I want to be on the clouds pulling people into heaven, not because I'm super holy, but I just had this desire for people to know and love Jesus and experience him for all eternity. And I thought Set Ablaze is actually going to help us do that.
Yes.
So that's my why.
Yeah.
But like that's mine.
Right.
I think everybody needs to find their own when facing whatever change comes.
Yeah.
And then I think the other thing about choosing to be a navigator is recognizing that you're going to try and fail.
Yes.
And you're going to try and succeed.
Yes.
Failure.
And this is what's going to happen in the pastorates.
Yeah,
You're going to
totally.
try things, and sometimes they're going to fail.
Yeah.
And that's okay.
Yes.
And sometimes they're going to succeed. So
we're just so critical of ourselves,
Yeah.
and we're so critical of other people. I can be totally this way. Like even as I've been supporting and helping to facilitate different parts of Set Ablaze, I can be like, I wish I would have done this. I wish I would have done this a little bit better, whatever. Praise God that there's places where we recognize our continued need for growth. Like, how boring would it be to be perfect all the time, Like there's this beautiful invitation, I think, to say recognize our failures and grow from them, and that's part of the deal. That's part of the gift.
Yeah, for sure. So when we succeed, we should celebrate that.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I always think I'm not a huge sports person, but I love the moments in between. Everyone always laughs when I say that. Do I not look like a sports person? I'm just kidding. I love the moments in between plays, in between each football throw, in between each volleyball, rally. Like the team comes together, whether they lose the point or win the point, but especially when they win, like there's this moment where they're celebrating. A win builds on all of those moments of celebration.
Yeah.
We got to stop and celebrate the little things.
Yeah, I agree. So there was one other piece in the article that you wrote, and maybe it was actually in the presentation that you did for the pastors. But you talked about there are some things that are going to remain the same.
Yes.
Even through Set Ablaze.
Yes. Oh,
remember
it's
those?
so
Can
important.
You,
I
like,
do.
Can you
I do.
repeat those?
Yeah. Yeah. You know, we talked at the beginning about like we're part of institutions because we value them. And when we're feeling uneasy about change, I think it's really, really important to remember, hey, there's a lot that's not changing.
Right.
There's a lot that remains the same. Like we are still, you know, the church on the prairie. We will continue to serve all of our people across the Diocese of Sioux Falls. We will continue to evangelize. We will continue to win people for the sake of the kingdom every single day. And we're still one Holy Catholic and Apostolic Church.
Yep.
We'll still celebrate the Eucharist. We will
Yep.
still have the sacrament of reconciliation. We will still, and Jesus is the same yesterday, today, forever.
Yep.
What a gift.
And he's still with us always.
Yeah, it doesn't
So,
change.
Yeah, we don't have to be afraid of change. It is sometimes difficult.
Yeah.
But I find great hope in what's happening in the diocese. I've seen lots of people really grab onto it, and they're the navigators.
The
They're
navigators.
like, let's go. Let's
Yeah.
make the most of this.
Yeah, the
And
navigators are pumped.
Yes.
They're like,
yes.
oh, I see, I get
Yes.
it.
And there are definitely some people who are struggling, and
That's
so
okay,
I hope that those who are struggling will take it to prayer a lot. Talk to the people who are navigators. Talk to the people who are just survivors, and see how you can move up to the next step, and just continue along the path, because we need everybody we can get ready to go.
Yep. Cling to the Eucharist. Cling to what's the same.
Yes.
Yeah.
Maybe spend some time in adoration.
Yeah. Yeah.
We need to do more of that anyway.
That's right. That's right. You know what's amazing? The Lord will do so much of the work.
Yeah.
Like I have this tendency to think that I need to like hustle and grind and you know, grit my teeth and whatever. And it's amazing just the moments where I get out of the way, where I
Yes.
just stop and get out of the way. Like the Lord does the work.
Yep.
It's amazing.
I hear that all the time from people when we're talking about apostolates they've started and so on, how the doors open if they just like let go and just let it happen.
Yep.
So
Lord, help me to take the next right step.
yes. Oh, I love that. That's a great way to end.
There you go.
Thank you, Emily, for coming in. I so appreciate it.
Thanks, Renee.
You bet. Of course, you can always find us on social media at Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube at SF Diocese anytime. You can also find us at sfcatholic.org if you have questions about the diocese. That's it for us today. Hope you'll join us again next week for more Catholic Views.